Have you ever been playing Left 4 Dead and come across a place you could describe as odd, unremarkable, dark, disturbing, or maybe even gritty? Well, in today's video, I've compiled every single one I've ever gone over in all of my channel. Now, I want to go over a few things. Yes, this is a compilation video, and I'm still going to return to these types of videos in the future, but I got my wisdom teeth pulled out, so it's very hard for me to talk, so I couldn't do an entire video, but I still wanted to make something for you guys. So if you haven't seen all the videos or you just want to watch them in order, this is the perfect video to do so. If we can get 1,000 likes, I'll be posting another picture of my bunny alongside my droopy face after the wisdom teeth reveal. If you guys want to see that 1,000 likes, thank you guys so much for clicking on my videos, subscribing, doing everything. I really appreciate it. You guys mean the world to me. Without further ado, let's get into every unremarkable, dark, disturbing, and gritty place in Left 4 Dead 2. So the first strange or odd place is actually on the first map after you jump down into this point of no return, this hole in the ceiling in the map that I believe is called Apartments. If you make your way through, you come across this car that has seemingly smashed into the apartment. You know, Valve likes to do a lot of environmental storytelling, so you're gonna see a lot of stuff like this throughout Left 4 Dead. But I never really notice this car. Like, I see the car, but I always think to myself, I just gotta keep going. But what if you stop for a second and you think, where was this car actually going? Where was it driving from? What road was it on before it crashed? Are there any hints of the crash besides this? And what about this? Is there any more of it? Well, we can actually check by going around the apartments on the outside and no clipping out of the map, and we can actually take a look. And you can actually see it without no clipping. You can see the car, it's right there, crashed into the building, and there's other cars that are on fire, but none with as much detail as that military car. So let's go ahead and let's no clip. So as we make our way out of the map, we can actually see the outside of the vehicle. But you can see that it's crashed into a building that I find the location of this lamppost pretty weird, but you can see rubble and stuff, which I find kind of weird because the color of this rubble doesn't actually match anything. Like, where does this rubble actually come from? Let's go to the next place. Alright, so the next place I wanted to show you for the keen-eyed viewers who already know where I am, I'm 5 feet from the other place. I genuinely think this one is a bit more interesting, so I want to show you it as well. A lot of people don't know that there's actually an entire area that you can explore over here. And you know, I played this map for a very long time as a kid, and I never, when I tell you never, came over to this area, and there's more of it over there, but I never ever came this way. Because why would you? It's so out of place. You have to go so much farther when you could just go straight to the safe room, which is right over there. So it's kind of out of the way, and it's really inefficient to come down here. But as we make our way over here, they actually put detail. As you can see, there's graffiti on the walls, there's signs with actually named companies. Simon Dairy Products since 1936, I believe that says. There's more graffiti. And there's a room that you can actually enter over here that has a door like this, these 2D doors that I was talking about earlier with no knobs or anything, that are just basically pixel art. And as you come over here, this is what loops the map, or not the map, but this area to the safe room. And you can see that stuff actually spawns in this room. You can actually get pills and pipe bombs, and I'm assuming Molotovs and adrenaline as well. But it's a really odd place that not a lot of people even know about. And to be honest, I didn't know about for years. Until one day I just was flying around in no clip, and I saw this area, and I flew over here, and I was like, hey, There's actually something over here. And another thing that I just noticed is that. What is that? It's a very strange and out of place thing. I believe it's meant to be a door, maybe? That's weird. So yeah, there's that thing up there, which is a bit strange. So as we come up to this strange little thing up here, I honestly can't really tell what it's supposed to be. But if I had to guess, it's supposed to be some type of like blinds, like window blinds. It doesn't really make sense because there's no other windows on the side of this building. And the lighting, when I shine my flashlight onto this, doesn't actually change. You can see that the lighting is completely fixed. It's not dynamic. Even from a distance like this, it looks so out of place. Let's move on to the third one. So the next place that I wanted to take a look at is on Swamp Fever. And I believe this is the second map of Swamp Fever. And at first glance, it might not look like much. It's these houses that are just wood, nothing else. And once again, leave a comment down below if you have a theory on what this is or why this is. In my opinion, I think that there were once houses that have been burned. And I had a friend that told me that he thinks that there were just in progress houses that weren't complete yet, that just got ravaged, you know, when the zombie apocalypse started. Because if you look at some of the closer details in the trash here, you can actually see clothes, there's wrappers, seems to be some type of beads, there's cans. And you know, maybe someone ended up living here in the future. This is not really indicative of a house in progress if you have bags and shirts. But another strange thing about these houses too is that they're spawn locations for grenades and healing items. And it's not just this one. There's a bunch of these scattered throughout the map, but it's pretty strange. Like, why would loot spawn in here if this was a construction site and not like a burned down house? You know what I mean? And it's if you come to the back here and you look towards this pile of junk, you're like, well, what are you even talking about? What is this? And you come closer, you start to realize that the elevation is a little weird over here. And you actually drop a little bit. And if I crouch down, you can actually see under the map here. There's a little bit of screw up in the terrain, I guess, that they made, because the 2D art here, the 2D pixel stuff, connects between these two, but the terrain is off in elevation, which leaves a gap in the middle here. You can actually see that the foundation of the house is a real thing, and it's under the ground here, and there's actually water under here, which makes sense when you think about how water is made in game design. It's not just water over there, you know, it's a giant pool of water that is under the map as well, which makes sense. But it's very strange, and you don't really get this in a lot of AAA games today. A lot of this stuff is kind of found and eventually cut out. But I think it's pretty cool when you find something like this in old games, because, you know, who comes over here? No one in their right mind is gonna come and just look. Like, why would they? That doesn't make any sense. There's no point in coming into this random area with, you know, a pile of trash. Yeah, let's move on to the next area. So the next place I wanted to show you guys is this definitely not imposing area in the finale of Dead Air, which, you know, how could you ever think that? You see that there's not really anything out here, and it's kind of a dead space. But if you keep walking, you see that the developers actually put some thought into this area because there's a pill spawn here. And I'm guessing maybe there's another spawn in that corner that I just didn't get when I spawned into this map. It's pretty interesting. There's actually pills here. But if that was it, I wouldn't show you this place. What makes this place interesting? And if you come over here, you can see, whoa, there's actually a place back here. Stuff behind this gate that you don't even have access to. That you'll never have access to. But unfortunately for them, we have no clue. We can actually explore this area, which is weird because this is an airport, remember that. So why is there just some back room area with a bunch of boxes on shelves for no reason? You know, it looks like this is a garage because there's it looks like some garage door, or maybe some door that you can open and maybe vehicles park here. Why is there just boxes? It's meant to just be a place that you glance over and like, oh, there's some boxes in there, and your brain kind of filters out that info. But again, if you stop and you take a look, pretty weird. And another weird thing about this room is there's 3 separate textures. There's the ceiling texture, which is this smooth sort of concrete underside sort of look. And then the walls are like this concrete layered, all jumbled at the bottom. And then you have the ground, which is the same ground from the outside. That was this place. Let's move on to the next one. So for the very final strange and mysterious place, I wanted to come to Blood Harvest specifically in the second to last map. I forget the name of it. If you ignore that bridge for a second, you can actually step off the side here. You can look around, but you can actually walk down here. And you can actually look around. I don't think the developers really had this in mind when they made the map. I mean, how do you really block off like this area? You probably have to just make it flush and not a slope. It looks to me like they wanted a slope. I guess it just allows you to come down here. But if you come down here, you can actually walk through this tree, look around, and that's the house that you're in before. And if you jump out of that window, you actually die when you fall down here. That's a high enough drop to kill you. And you keep going, you can see that you can actually go all the way around the building. And one of the interesting details, which you might have already noticed, is the side of this cliff and the what I presume to be a base plate down there is completely wrong. So yeah, it's pretty interesting how you can actually come over here without doing any sort of special tactics, without no clip or anything. And like I was saying, if you look out the edge over here, it looks weird. It's not a place you're supposed to be looking, but I would think that they would patch this up with something, not leave it so like sharp. You can see the 90-degree angles here, so you know, they kind of copped out there. But other than that, that's the last place I had for you guys. It's pretty cool. You can also come over here and peek this. Yeah, that's it. So for the first strange and mysterious place, I wanted to come to the Tunnel of Love, and this location was actually suggested by a user in the comments from the previous video. So just like this one, if you guys want to see your places shown in these videos, don't be afraid, leave a comment down below and I'll definitely check them out. As for this place, we have to follow through with the Tunnel of Love, and it's one of these back alleys. So let me go ahead and find it. So as you follow the Tunnel of Love, you'll come across the main path, which is this Tunnel of Love maintenance room. But if you ignore that and you walk down here, you'll see that there are a bunch of boats boarded up against this fence, and you can't actually get behind here normally, even if you try to parkour. Just like the last video, we got no clip. Alright, so once you get your way behind the fence, you can actually follow this completely made path that turns around and comes over here. And the first thing I noticed was this gap in the map that I don't think you can actually get through without no clip, but it allows me to see all the way around, and it's really strange. You can see that there's some 2D little sprite over there for trees. I don't really know what you want to call it, some like background art. And as you look over here, they have this safe room decal, which makes me think that this board was once an original design for a safe room. And it's interesting because why would they put this decal here if they had no plans to do anything with it? Another thought could be that they were originally going to make 2 paths to the safe room and actually allow the survivors to choose one or the other. But I'm guessing they might have ran out of time, or maybe they just didn't think it was worth it and they ended up cutting it. But they left these interesting artifacts in this tunnel. It looks like they just put a board here. And I think that if we no clip out of here, you can see that there's nothing actually behind the board. The board's right here. There's no room. There's no like secret entrance way. So I'm guessing that they might have tried to make a way and, like I said earlier, just ended up blocking it up because they didn't have enough time. But I find it strange because if they went through the effort of boarding this up, why did they leave this weird hole in the map? Like, this is just completely visible. Once again, I want to thank that user for suggesting this place, and let's go to the next one. So for the next strange and mysterious place, I wanted to come to Death Toll, and we're not actually at the place right now, but I want you to remember beyond this fence what this looks like. How there's a straight road, there's a car here, there's all this sort of detailing. There's hillsides, there's trees, there's lampposts, there's electric cables, and this one was also suggested by a user. I'll put them on screen right now. I don't want to butcher their name, but here's the user. And the reason I have to come back here is because once we go forward in the map to actually check the real area out, this entire place was cut. They didn't copy and paste these details into the other map. They just straight up took it out. So let's make our way and go there now. So as we make our way a little bit through the 3rd level on Death Toll, the user said to follow the road. As we find the crash bus, if you turn right, there's this path that goes for a decently long distance. And if you follow it down here, you realize that that area we were just looking at is what we're looking at now. Except there's no detail whatsoever, and the path doesn't allow us to go forward. But unfortunately, so once we make our way on the other side of the fence, I put myself in God mode so I shouldn't die. But the user said that this path leads to the campaign Last Stand, which is interesting because as I showed you guys, there was a road here originally that like went off into this direction, but in this version of the map that can't make sense because there's a road that you actually follow in the original map that goes behind in that direction. So when we no clip, you can see that on the previous map the road went right through this area. And you can tell this is the right area because of the shape of the building and the design. And we were standing about right here, and the safe room was like right there. And we looked off into this direction and we saw the road going straight back, right? But that can't be possible because the entire other map is right here. We saw the road go way through this point. I mean, Left 4 Dead is a level by level based game, and sometimes devs create a level at each time without thinking about the level that comes after it. And while that's normal in game development, what isn't normal is like giant miscalculations like this. And Left 4 Dead is kind of full of these, which I find very interesting. But in this area back here, you can see absolutely nothing. You know, you can come up to that fence and you can gaze back here, but all you see is like genuinely nothing. You can look around. There's a light post here. And you can even come back and you can see behind the map. It's pretty interesting. And I didn't even notice this before, but there's a knife here. That's interesting. The user didn't say anything about this in their comment. But that's cool. Wow. I wonder if this knife is special or anything. It seems that this was just a knife sitting here in the back of the map, floating, for no one to grab. And it's interesting because when I think about it, I might have genuinely been the first person to ever pick up this knife. And when you put it into perspective like that, it makes this back rooms area kinda creepy. I like how the map works. It's interesting. You know, you can have an entire full face of an object and just nothing. But I thank the viewer for the suggestion, and let's get into the next strange and mysterious place. So for the next strange and mysterious place, I'm gonna bring you guys in the actually same exact map. So we have a two-piece, just like last time. But if you make your way through the map, right before the church sequence where you knock on the door and the guy betrays you by ringing the bell, if you come to the right side of the graveyard, you'll see this welcome to hell sign and these bodies and these cars. But what I'm interested in is what's behind this, because Valve does this a lot where the maps are right next to each other because of the way that the safe room teleportation mechanism works. So you get to see bits and pieces of a unfinished part of the next map. So as we no clip our way through the wall, this is one I actually found myself. And we got some trees over here. There's some hillsides. And like I said, this is part of the next map. And they actually put some pretty good detailings back here for this being outside of the map. But as we make our way back here, you can see the church area that you eventually come through. I don't know if I can actually make my way over there. I think there's a visible barrier here. But I can actually jump on this. I can play around with this. There's a fence here. And if you compare this version of this unfinished part of this second area, you'll actually notice that in the next area, there's like a hole in the wall here that you make your way through. And it's not present in this version of it. And this truck here is in a completely different position in the next version of the map. And you know, this makes sense. There's a bunch of these empty areas just to add a little bit of immersion as you look off the side of the map. As you can see, this road design, this black asphalt eroded away into the soil, it comes to a point and then it just stops. And then all of a sudden it's just a straight line with perfect city paved road with sidewalk next to it. And then you got this blurry base plate that I don't even know the resolution of. It's so damn blurry. There's light posts here. There's even fully detailed signs. Cold drinks, ice deli, quick buy, closed until further notice due to sickness. You know, that's pretty interesting. I don't know at any time I've ever seen a sign like this. It's probably going to be in the next version of what this place is supposed to be. But that's interesting. Actually makes a lore implication. There's some street lights that, funnily enough, are actually on. Are these ones? Those ones are on too. And there's a bunch of gaps in the map, and this makes sense. We are out of bounds. So that's not too weird to see when you know, we can literally look off the side of the map over here. But there's a full building here with a door, I say very lightly, with stone block that has one face missing that we can jump on. But we can't actually open the door. But we can kind of look through and see that there's not really anything in there. But there's kind of just this empty place. And you're not really going to see a building like this, you know? Like, there's no point in the map where you get high enough that you could peer at the building here. So genuinely, if you never no-clipped through the map, you would never see this building. And there's another building over here with a similar design, albeit it's much thicker. It's a little bit shorter. But we can't open this door. And this design up here just abruptly stops. The roof also just abruptly stops for some reason. Like I said, we are outside of the map, so it's not too weird. And this car that I find very strange, that if you look through the windows, you can see the entire interior of the car. There's some tires here. It seems to me like the windows have this weird distorted effect, like they didn't add glass or something. And look through the back here, see the bottom of the car. There's another building here with a blacked out door and a streak that you can actually come behind. And I thought you could go into it, but I guess you can't. But you can go around it. And once again, this place is pretty strange. When I think about it, the only reason why this place would be here is for you to peer at it from behind this gate right here. But because this gate is already so boarded off, there'd be no reason to include any of this. Like, I believe in the map after this, there's some sort of roadblock or something that's in this area right here that stops you from going back into the map. So I'm wondering, why didn't they just put that here instead of making this entire area? My thought process is maybe that they wanted to make the map a little bit bigger, and maybe they wanted the safe room to be in one of these buildings, but they ended up settling for the church. But with this area done, let's move on to the next strange and mysterious place. Now for the next strange and mysterious place, I want to bring you guys to the Parish, but as you make your way halfway through the cemetery, I believe it's called, you'll make your way to this crashed helicopter. And a lot of people actually know about this place, it's not too hidden, but if you come up to this helicopter with any of the characters, you can actually get a voice line.
Zombies didn't take down this helicopter.
But you can see that this helicopter is actually pretty detailed. I mean, you're meant to look at it if there's a voice line for it. But it's on fire. It's all broken down. There's a decal on the side. The front is just completely destroyed. There's sparks coming off of it. And one of my big questions about this entire area was always, how did people take down this helicopter? Because like I said, you know, the characters comment on this helicopter not being taken down by zombies. I'm thinking, how did they know that? Because, you know, I'm not the biggest helicopter expert, but like just from looking at this, I would assume, if the characters didn't say anything, that maybe survivors got on board and maybe someone was infected, and then the helicopter just went down because of that. But we know that not to be the case. So honestly, let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. I'm interested. There's kind of just like holes everywhere that you can straight up just see by looking off the map. They didn't put an overtly big amount of effort into hiding it. One of these fan blades have actually lit this section on fire, and it's actively burning the wood. You can see that there's a different particle effects here, and you can see some of the helicopter has crashed into this house and is now burning down this bit of rubble with the same kind of fire effects. So that's it for this area. Let's make it on to the final area for the video. Now for the final area in the video, I wanted to come to Sugar Mill B, and this place is right next to the safe room, but it's actually behind this bus. And normally this place is cut off by this bus, but as y'all know, I have my favorite tool. Alright, bro. As you come along here, once again, you're not meant to be out here. You're never really gonna see this outside area. There's no point. But it's just these mysterious and unsettling places that really attract me. See what I did there? But another thing that's interesting for those of you who are Advent Left 4 Dead players is that this whole back area here is actually a survival portion. This map was manipulated for survival specifically. And in survival, you can come back here, there's loot back here, and you can kind of like set up, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe there's even a ladder back here in survival that allows you to get onto the roof. I might be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. But as we come back to the area that we're looking at, there's puddles out here. And what I find very strange is that they went through the effort of putting all this water out here. It's a little bit weird because you can see that there's a lot of straight edges. It's kind of hard to see. You kind of got to get the right angle. But you see there's almost like an obtuse angle right there. And on that one right there too, right there. You can see that there's very sharp edges. Over here too, the water's not smoothly put around the terrain. It's sort of just slid into there. And the whole backside of the map looks interesting. The way that they make these sort of walls, it's like a kind of like a semicircle, just blockade sort of thing. And what's weird too is from this angle, I just noticed this, but you can't actually see these sprites here. There's full on trees. You come over here You know, this adds to the map. This makes it look very foresty. But as soon as you break that illusion, that's what makes this place weird and unsettling. And you can go back and back and back in this whole area for a very long time. And there's even water out here. In video games, for those of you who don't know, water isn't usually placed like segment by segment. It's usually one giant like square of water that they put under the map and they slide at a lower elevation to create the illusion that there's like a puddle or something like that, because water collects at the lowest point, right? So it makes sense that they didn't necessarily put the water here themselves, that this is kind of overflow from this water. But it's interesting how it kind of like formed the river here. And once again, you can peer off the map and you can see this area up here. And if you get in this elevator, I'm guessing you can actually, if you jump high enough, when you get all the way up here in the elevator, you can kind of peek off into this area. But they did a pretty good job at hiding it. I mean, this map is very rainy, so it's already hard to see. Plus the fact that storms can spawn makes visibility even lower. So for the first weird and unsettling place, I'm taking you guys to the last map in Death Toll. And this was actually suggested by someone in the last video that I guess I didn't find, or I must not have followed correctly, so that's my bad. But I'll flash some comments on screen. They corrected it and they told me the new location. So like I said, if you come to the last map on Death Toll, right outside of the safe room, when I was trying to find this location, I first thought it might have been this. Because if you guys remember, there's some sort of road on Death Toll that leads to Last Stand, or at least that's what a lot of people were saying. So in the previous video, I tried to find it. I believe I went to the third map, but it wasn't there. I couldn't actually find it. But on the fifth map, I actually have found it. Here, as you can see, this is not the right area because the commenters point out that the pickup truck in the Last Stand, it just looks like a normal truck with a box and a lantern in the back, is prevalent in the map. But as you can see, there is no pickup truck on this road, and this is the road I first came to. However, if you skip past this road and you go to the other road past these houses, so right as you come outside of the houses, normally you would just go straight forward, you would go to the boathouse and you would start the finale. If you come over here and you turn right, a lot of people might recognize this road pattern or this road texture, but you can actually see the pickup truck there. And I think this is extremely cool. This is some really subtle environmental storytelling that the creators of Last Stand actually used in the creation of their map. This road texture is actually used in the Last Stand. The road that comes out of bounds up into Last Stand actually looks like it. If we no clip out of bounds here, you can actually walk forward and see that this is indeed the actual pickup truck that they use. And it's very interesting because it seems that when Death Toll was made, this was kind of just placed here without any thought, with really no purpose to being here other than extra set dressing. But for a map creator to actually use this asset to create the premise for an entirely new map, albeit it's just this car that they use, it's really interesting. And since we're out of bounds, you can actually take a look around. And there's a lot of places in Left 4 Dead that look like this, where it's these sort of out of bound roads with trees and grass. But I don't know, this area is very unsettling. See what I did there? But as you look off, there's some hills. There's smoke in the air. This fence goes on for quite a while. These housing units continue down here. We can actually jump up here and enter the back area for these houses. And there's all sorts of weird things. I don't expect this to look necessarily right because this is out of bounds, so it makes sense that a bunch of this stuff is missing. And as people have pointed out in my previous videos, a lot of the reason why houses or terrain will have no faces is to actually save on resources for the game, so it's pretty well optimized. and I thought that's very interesting. I never actually knew you could come back here and explore all of this. I thought it might have been a zone where you can't actually do anything. That's it for this first place. Let's move on to the second one. So for this second weird and unsettling place, if you make your way to the second to last map on Dark Carnival, right before this horrible crescendo event, might I add, there's this ticket shop, and unless you use no clip, no one is gonna know about this place. And this was actually suggested by a commenter in the previous video, so I'm gonna go ahead and show them on screen. Thank you so much for the suggestion. But how you normally open this area is you click this right here and it opens and you go through and whatnot. But as the commenter said, if you no clip out of bounds, there's a room, and at first I couldn't find it. I was looking here, I was thinking maybe it's behind here, or maybe he was talking about here. But if you come right to this wall and you go through it, there's this weird room. This room has no doors, it has no windows, has no openings, it has no hatch. This room is completely sealed off from the outside. I have no idea why this room even exists, and sometimes Valve likes to make backroom areas and just not use them because it fits the size of the building, but they don't populate it with any props. But it seems like in the case of this room, they went through the effort of actually putting props in here. And as you can see, unlike Dead Air, these props are right side up. And it's weird, this room is very tiny. There's nowhere to go. A commenter left a comment to use the command matte full bright to show dark areas, and you can look into this room with this command and you can genuinely see there is nothing. And if you come back out to this little corner side right here, if you look to your left, there's this little blockade piece of wood here. If you no clip beyond it, but you can explore these back areas, and I'm probably gonna have to go to no clip. And as a little extra, because this one was kind of a smaller area but still pretty interesting, you can see these giant areas back here, and there is no reason for this to exist. The only reason I could think of is for setting up set dressings like this Ferris wheel, but for like all of this to exist, honestly doesn't need to. You really only need the top roof right there. You don't need any of these lower parts. Like full assets too, there's front faces, there's what seem to be door textures here, there's even a door in this building that leads to nothing. My guess is that they don't know how big each area will be, so they end up making it gigantic so that they give themselves enough space to actually make it the size that they want. But yeah, let's move on to our next unsettling place. So for the next weird and unsettling place is another one of these out of bounds, out of reach areas. But this one in particular, you can actually get a pretty good view of, and it's nothing amazing, it's pretty unremarkable, but I'll explain later while it's kind of unsettling. When you come to the second map of Dead Center, if you make your way out of the safe room, you turn to the right, you come down this road, you're supposed to go into this door here, but you can look off into the distance out here, and you can see absolutely nothing. I mean, they put some props, there's some cones, there's some post things there, but you can't make your way out here. Unfortunately, guess what? If you make your way out here by no clipping, and again, you know, these places are pretty odd because it's out of bounds, you're not supposed to be here. And I know these places aren't something special, they're unremarkable, and that's part of the point. You know, a lot of people misunderstand the point that I try to make with these videos. These videos aren't necessarily supposed to be the most remarkable places. In fact, they're supposed to be completely the opposite. You guys are not supposed to know about these places, but yet I'm showing them to you. And in places like this, there's full-on trees out here just chilling. They're animated and everything. You can see their branches moving in the wind. There's another tree over there. You can see this tree from that area over there. But it's interesting because not even infected come over here. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think infected might be able to get over here using their abilities, but I don't think they spawn spawn out here. I might be mistaken. They might not be able to come in this area specifically, but there's billboards here. This looks like the same billboard asset from Dark Carnival, Whispering Oaks. Oh yeah, it is. It is from Dark Carnival. That's interesting. Oh, that's a little Easter egg. That's pretty cool. Oh, and on this side is Jimmy Gibbs. That's interesting. I literally just noticed this. So Jimmy Gibbs on the one side, and then you have Whispering Oaks on the other side. But if you kind of walk out of this little tree area, which if you think about it, if this is a real road, you're driving by, look to your side, I could kind of envision this, but it doesn't really make sense when you have a giant building right here. And if you make your way all the way from the beginning part where we started and you walk towards here, this room right here, as you can see with that highlight, is the loot room that you pass by before you drop down. This is also where the road continues. As you can see, there are a bunch of faces missing, and as I mentioned earlier in the video, people told me that they unrender or choose not to show these faces for optimization reasons. The less faces, the less things it has to worry about, less strain on your CPU. Let's go on to the next place. So for our next place, funnily enough, it ties into one of the previous places. But when you come to the first map at the very beginning of Last Stand, it's kind of strange because you start in the middle of nowhere, similar to the beginning of Death Toll. And you can see this car, which looks oddly familiar, no? And I think I was asking you guys whether or not this was the right car because I didn't get a good look at it. It is the exact car from Death Toll. It looks like they moved the lamp there and put a dead guy here. I don't really know where that dead guy would have come from. You know, maybe they picked someone up along the road and he turned into a zombie and unfortunately they had to take him out. But what place am I talking about? What place could be so strange that is worthy of coming here and making a segment about it? Well, most people just follow the road, go straight, continue with the map. They have no reason to look behind them. And as you know with me, the best places are found when you just look behind you. And as you know, clip, out of bounds, there's a lot of assets out here because they quite literally have to put it here. There's no blockade blocking this area off, so it makes sense. Although, how would they get the car through this road if there's a vehicle here? And how did they get through here if there's a gate here? I mean, they could have opened it, but there's a bunch of junk. I don't think I've ever seen this texture on zombies before. Well, I mean, it's the burn texture. I know that texture, but I've never seen it clumped up like this in a pile. I think this is very interesting. There's some barbed wire here. There's these ladder assets, which I think I only see on Last Stand. I might be mistaken. There's some planks here. And as you make your way back here, I like to explore places without no clip if possible. But this is one of those weird out of bounds areas that again, you're not really supposed to be in. But I just love that the game lets you come back here. It lets me use no clip and actually explore these areas. There's hills, there's rocks, there's trees, and as you guys remember, this texture right here is actually the same texture from that map in Death Toll, so it genuinely does connect. If I had to guess, it kind of turns this way, so I'm assuming that the people leave Death Toll from the right side and enter Last Stand through here. The road turns. Somehow they make it past this vehicle here and they end up right where you are, where you start Last Stand, and continue the map. But over here you can look outside. You can kind of see there's a bunch of void places. Again, I'm not too curious on why there isn't void faces because we are out of the bounds. I believe this lamppost is a blood harvest asset. They might use it other places, but I think I've seen it in blood harvest before. And if you come to the other side, it's a similar deal. You can see out of the map, there's trees. There's tree cards here. What I would think would have been really cool if they had the survivors actually start in this area. They put like maybe some rocks or something and they have the car crashed on the side of the road. Like maybe the survivors hit a rock or something and they spun out and they like crashed into a boulder or something. So there's like fire on the ground, which makes you not be able to backtrack. They just extend the cliff here and they let you actually go forward, because this is a very cool set dressing. I like this area for some reason. I don't know whether it's the light or the skybox. Probably a mixture of everything, but I think it'd be pretty interesting if you started just a little farther back. And I know it's kind of ironic because this map is like one of the longest maps in the entire game, so like why would you make it longer, you know? Ignoring that, I think you can make it pretty interesting. Maybe put like a lake over here with maybe some animals drinking. I know they never had animals in Left 4 Dead, or at least alive ones. That's what I would do if I was like revamping this map or something. Let's go to the final area for this video. So for the very final one, we come to the first out of the two maps on Crash Course, a campaign not a lot of people actually play, and to be honest with you, I think I played it probably less than 20 times. And something very interesting about this place is this map is pretty obvious. It ties into No Mercy. If you find this pilot right here, right next to spawn, you can see that this is actually the exact same guy that you can find in No Mercy. But for the actual place I want to show you, this is the area I'm talking about. Now to me, this is a very unsettling place because it has no reason to exist. This texture right here has no reason to exist. It's just some park. And again, it doesn't make any sense. We're out of bounds. I understand that. You know, these trees right here aren't even touching the ground. I don't think these ones are either. That one is definitely not. I think this one is actually touching the ground. And it looks to be actual 3D set dressing out of bounds, which is pretty cool because usually the 3D set dressing is 2D. But if you explore this area, it's pretty interesting. They went through the effort of putting trees and lampposts out here, which when you think about it, how does this make any sense? Maybe they plant stuff in their parking lot. But the biggest and most unsettling thing about these out of bounds areas is they put effort, but they don't put effort. Like they put just enough effort, if that makes sense. And it makes sense when you think about it. You're not really supposed to be out here, but if you can look off into here, it makes sense that there would be a little something. And over here there's a Humvee as well, with kind of this weird window glitch that we kind of saw a little bit on Death Toll. And once again, there's just giant empty space. And this one is a little bit more interesting because I can believe you can actually come over here and look out and see this giant empty space. In that regard, it's kind of strange that they didn't put anything here to block players from actually seeing this null zone, you should call it, or you could call it, I should say. And it seems to me that you can't actually explore outside here, which is sad because it looks like this 3D stuff. Oh man, I really wanted to explore this. Instead of everything being 2D, it looked like they actually went through the effort of doing some weird trick to make the background out here 3D, but you can't actually explore it. Now, when I was finding places for this video, there's a lot of areas like this where I would try to no clip and it just completely takes your screen away. If you guys can explain to me like why this disappears when you try to get close to it, I'd appreciate that. I don't actually know why it does that. So for the first dark and disturbing area in Left 4 Dead 2, we come to the very first map on Dead Air, which is a really good campaign in my opinion. If you come past the beginning of the spawn area, you can either go down the stairs or jump over the top here. It really doesn't matter. If you make your way through the map, the way you're normally supposed to go is down these planks. You continue through that building, you end up on top of a warehouse, and you continue with the level. However, if you turn to your left here, you might get some item spawns in this corner, maybe in this corner, I'm not too sure. But if you look off over the edge here, so you see that there's a street here with a couple cars, maybe there's a Humvee, there's a van there, there's two kind of normal cars down there, there's some dumpsters in the middle of the street. But what we're interested in is that boat down there. So using console commands, if you make your way down here, this street is one of the most eerie and disturbing places because it's not destroyed. There's no giant craters in the middle of the street. There's no burning cars. It's just nothing. No one's here. No one's anywhere. However, there are a couple cars that you rarely see anywhere else in the campaign. This Humvee over here, however, you see in a lot of different campaigns. And of course, if we come over here, we can see off the map. And over there, there's a bunch of destroyed and burning buildings. But in this street in particular, there isn't really anything. All of this is context for the actual thing I'm interested in, which is this boat. And funnily enough, you can actually go down here. There's no steps, so you're just gonna drop down here. There's a fully working dock down here that you can actually step on. And there's no face on this building. But what I'm really interested in is this boat. And to many people, this boat might not seem strange, or it might not seem dark, or it might not seem disturbing. But to me, in my opinion, this boat is very dark and disturbing, and I'll tell you why. As you play Left 4 Dead, you can find very many assets that don't really mean anything. But to me, this asset screams out a story. A story that we as the players might not ever know, and you can only really know by using headcanon or things that you make up for yourself. If we're talking about reality here, the devs might have just placed this boat in a veiled attempt to add some fluff to the map, and in reality it might not have a story that they ever really cared about. But when I stumbled upon this boat on the outside of the map, it struck me very hard. Something about the old, rusted nature and where it's located in the map, on this dock right behind a supposed building. Personally, to me, it could have been someone's family boat. Maybe it was a ship that was commandeered after the infection started, or maybe someone owned it before the infection started. Maybe this boat was owned to one of the peoples in the nearby buildings that unfortunately didn't make it out. Maybe friends or families that tried to survive the infection knew somebody who owned a boat and unfortunately couldn't make it. Maybe a family friend told someone, hey, we have a boat, you want to come with us? We're thinking about leaving, getting away from the infection, meet us at 12 p.m. But those people never showed up. To me, it screams a story that not only the player can come up with on their own, but that the writers didn't take into account. And that's important because the death of the author is the birth of the reader. Now, the boat isn't an actual asset, or I should say it is an actual asset, but it's not a physical asset, so you can just walk right through it, and you can actually jump up and down in this water. This water here won't actually kill you. There's holes rusted on the side of their ship. That indicates to me that this was an old ship before the infection even started, because as you might know, the infection in Left 4 Dead 1 and Left 4 Dead 2 are pretty recent. As you play through the game, the infection is happening. So you still meet people who are alive and well. But ending on that extremely happy note, let's go to the next dark and disturbing place. For the next dark and disturbing place in Left 4 Dead 2, I want to bring you to the Parish campaign. Now, for a lot of the really in-depth followers of Left 4 Dead 2, you already know what I'm going to talk about in this segment. But for those of you who don't know, in the Parish, the military is bombing throughout this entire campaign. You'll see jets fly over, make a really big noise, drop bombs, you might hear the characters react in some sort of way. But the military is being a very big aggressor throughout this entire campaign. But what's so disturbing? Well, throughout the campaign, when you come to places like the one I'm about to show you, there are these bodies just laid out all over the floor, and if you're not really keen-eyed, or if you don't take a second to stop and look around, you might not notice that a lot of these bodies aren't zombies. Now, what do I mean, right? If you come up to these bodies, you'll actually notice that these were people. If you look at the injuries they sustained, it's just bullet holes. If you look at this guy, he's a normal guy, his face isn't malformed, his jaw isn't hanging down, but he has bullet holes in it. If you look at this gentleman here, he looks the same, he has good facial hair, nothing's really deteriorating, his body's not rotting in any sort of way, but he has bullet holes in him. If you look at this woman, it's the exact same story. Bullet holes, there's no deterioration of the skin, her face is intact, her mouth is intact, her nose is intact, her arms are intact, not segmented in any way, and some of these assets are pretty much the same. But if you look at this gentleman here, single bullet shot to the head, and that's not a big thing to grasp your mind around. I mean, it is a zombie movie. Hey, maybe some people just started shooting at each other, you know, maybe people got caught in the crossfire, people ended up dying, no big deal, right? Well, what adds to the disturbiness, what adds to the disturbing aspect of this place, let's read the sign together. It says, warning, restricted area, do not run directly at military personnel, do not ignore military personnel when they address you, do not make any sudden or violent movements. Now, this makes sense. If you do anything that acts like a zombie, they're gonna shoot at you, right? As we continue, you see people shot and hung over these rails, people slouched down, covering their chests. You see women shot on the ground, grasping at life. And again, these people aren't zombies. And as you come to this point in the map, which is a little farther than where we just were, this is one of the most telling places just by the number of bodies. It's crazy, you know, these people had lives, right? If you're acting as a person in this universe and you stumble upon this, you honestly might just cry. I mean, these people had families. They were trying to reach the loved ones. Maybe they had lost loved ones and wanted to carry on their memory, and now they can't because the people they put their trust in betrayed them in a moment of crisis. The military didn't want to give any chances, and so they didn't, but every action has consequence, and the consequences of these people, or wrongdoing or betrayal, cost them their lives and their story. The survivors will comment on this area saying things like, "Oh God," and showing a general amount of disgust towards this scene. Let's move on to our next dark and disturbing place.
A zombie chopper pilot? Ugh! You have got to be kidding me. We were almost home free, damn it.
So for the next dark and disturbing place is actually a pretty short one, and it's right here at the beginning of Death Toll. You crash with your fellow survivors, they might say a few different voice lines, and it's actually really sad in my opinion. It's this helicopter pilot, and if you go back into No Mercy, this is the same helicopter pilot that picks you up. If you come to the side over here, it is definitely the same chopper. It's the News Chopper 5. It has the same tag number, tail number. I forget the right terminology. But the reason why I felt that I needed to bring up this place in today's video, the reason I felt I need to bring this up in today's video is because everyone has a story. That's sort of the theme or the message that I'm trying to get off with this particular video. This man's story is unfortunately done. It ended with this plane crash, but it started with from a place of good, you know? He was a guy who tried to help people, who frequently picked people up from the top of Mercy Tower and brought them to safety. But let's move on to the next one. Now for this next dark and disturbing place, it's less so disturbing and more dark. In my opinion, the darkest quote-unquote campaign is the one that we're in conveniently today, which is Hard Rain. As you spawn into the third map of Hard Rain, this single room in Hard Rain has one of the most writing in any safe room in the entire game. I've taken the time to read all of these for myself, and you can look at them, you can pause the video on screen, you can go ahead and read each one of these writings, you can zoom in on your phone. But even coming out here, the dark aspect is the vibe. In my opinion, this map has single-handedly the strongest vibe in the entire game, and I will argue about that. Just looking up into the sky, it's a dark skybox with rainy clouds. There's thunderstorms in the distance, lightning that you can see, and occasionally there's super heavy rain that'll fall down. And one of the most atmospheric moments is when you're walking through this cornfield back to the elevator and the rain comes down, you can't see anything, the wind is blowing, lightning's going on in the background, you hear thunder cracking in the distance, you find short shelter for a moment in the elevator and you begin to ascend. Unlike the Parish where there's literally families slain out for everyone to see, this one in particular doesn't have too many things, it's more of the map changing, and if you go the way you're supposed to, you kind of miss out on the vibe of this map in my opinion. If you backtrack the way that you came, which is usually through this area right here, you can see that there's a couple inches of water, and man, I just love the sound of that rain. The eerie music in the background, the rain hitting the metal on the sugar mill. It feels like you want to grab your friends and you want to just huddle in a corner. You want to bunker down, you want to get guns, and you want to just defend yourself. And a lot of people don't think about this. They think, oh, it's just rain. But they don't really feel the vibe of this map the way I do. And it's hard to explain it. But have you ever come home to your grandma's on a weekend? Or maybe your parents take you there on a weekend and it's raining and your grandparents are busy and you just sit there doing nothing. I mean, that's not the same as a zombie apocalypse, but it's a similar vibe. But that vibe changes things, and I think that says a lot for the map makers, that they can make such a strong vibe with such a basic premise like rain. The rain sweeping away the concrete and the pipes. Survivors get brief shelter as they make their way into safe zones with only a few weapons, like maybe this Uzi or this shotgun here. Now, I don't need to play through the entire map to get this point across, but I want to show you this next area. Just listen to the rain. Think of your early childhood. Think of you trying to survive this instance. Maybe you have a different scenario in your head, but try to put yourself in the perspective of yourself as a kid. But take a moment.
Find some place to hunker down.
So for the next dark and disturbing area in Left 4 Dead, it's actually a single event that in my opinion is one of the only two in the entire game that capture the actual vibe Left 4 Dead tries to portray as a game overall. And it's on the very first map in The Last Stand. And shout out to the dev in the comment section. I see you every time commenting on my vids. I really appreciate you. I think it's really cool that a dev has actually commented on my vids. I want to thank you again. Thank you very much. If you're watching this and you see me saying this, if you made this part, wow man, I just gotta say you did a really good job. If you didn't and it was one of your colleagues, let them know if you can that I say this is a beautifully done map, and I want to say that this part that I'm gonna show off is really well done. The one moment in this entire campaign that for me personally makes it really good is this one instance right here. Now everyone who played The Last Stand has seen that moment. Why is it so dark? Why is it so disturbing to me? Well, a lot of people know that you can find it later on in the map, and later on in the level as you come to the plane crash, you can find trees burning, you can find smoke, you can peer into the plane, you can look at it. But why did I say that I feel like it captures the overall tone or vibe that Left 4 Dead as a whole tries to convey? Well, Left 4 Dead isn't your stereotypical zombie game where every building has trees growing on it and vines coming out of the windows. The game is trying to convey a world that is currently falling apart. A virus that is rapid yet steady. A virus that is affecting the survivors the same way it's affecting all the other people in the world now. And this single moment of a plane crashing, just like in Dead Air, it puts an actual tangible physical thing in the game that shows that to me, and it puts it in your face. And it's dark. It really is dark. As you come to the side of the plane, you can find the pilot here, which is laid out on the ground. He's burned. It doesn't look like he's been zombified at least, and I'm pretty sure it was on fire when it went down, so something must have happened. Exploring the areas, you see these super cool assets, these burning ember trees, which are not too spectacular in the modern game standards, but look really cool in my opinion. You can see that the fire is starting to spread. There's trees across the river that are also on fire. There's bushes and shrubs that are starting to burn. And it's just a set dressing. It's just an environmental storytelling detail at the end of the day. But to me, it means a lot more than just that. And as I mentioned before, what I'm trying to get across with the theme of this video is that everyone has a story. And this man right here most definitely had a story. But that's gonna be it. I wanted to try and give a little less info to you guys in today's video. Well, what do I mean by that? Why would I do that? I want you guys to really take a look more so at what I'm showing you rather than what I'm telling you. So today's video, you might have noticed that I still said a lot, but I wanted to say a little bit less. Maybe I accomplished that, maybe I didn't. So before we get into the first unexpectedly cozy place, I want to say something real quick, but it's pretty hard to find warm and cozy places in this game. I mean, think about it, right? This is a zombie apocalypse game. It's not supposed to be really warm and cozy. The only places that are supposed to emulate that is the safe rooms, but I don't want to just show you safe rooms for 30 minutes and call it a day. I want to try to extrapolate or try to find the cozy, quote unquote, areas of maybe some darker places. So some of these places will look dark initially, but my goal is to try to get you to see it from my perspective and how it was at least once cozy, or maybe still is cozy, but in the non-conventional way. With that out of the way, the first unexpectedly cozy place is the plantation house on the last map of Swamp Fever. Now this map overall has a little bit darker tone, but even from the image on the last map you can see it looks a bit warm. The sun is out, and as we make our way to the entrance, from the backside at least, you climb up this ladder, and as you enter here, there's these bears. Now there's a couple of things that these bears symbolize. I've heard that they symbolize the survivors. I heard that they symbolize specifically Left 4 Dead 2 survivors, and that's mainly it, to be honest. It's pretty interesting. You can see there's some teddy bears here. As you jump down, you can see that light shines through the windows, and it gives you this kind of warm and settling feeling, ignoring some of the wall and trash and obvious holes in the ceilings and doors. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of the light from the outside makes its way into the plantation house and makes it feel warm, you know? Looking at something like this reminds me of something like my grandma's house, or maybe a relative's house that you go to for Christmas. There's furniture here, which again reminds me of my grandma's house. A lot of this old wooden furniture. There's a wheelchair here, which for some will remind them of their grandma, unfortunately. There's another teddy bear here, along with a light here. For me, living in Hawaii, we have something called koa wood, and koa wood is like a very specific type of furniture. Look, it's hard to explain, but when you look at it, it's wood, and you can just tell by the design. You can tell by the design that it is koa, but the reason why I bring this up is because these don't necessarily look really like koa wood, but I could see that if this was something like my grandma's house, koa wood makes me feel very cozy. It makes me feel very warm. I'm next to my relatives, my grandma, and overall it makes me feel nice and comfortable. However, the coziest part, in my opinion, of this entire plantation house is this one room. The light shines in perfectly. People can sit up against this wall, maybe cook themselves a nice meal. There's a shovel in here. There's some beautiful books here, for 2008 at least. Beautiful. Looking at what's on the ground, there's multiple sleeping bags. I see that there's a blue one, there's another blue one, there's a green one here, there's two more green ones and a blue one on this side. It looks like there's pillows here. There's some writing on the wall. There's some more rolled up sleeping bags along with some clothes. But as I mentioned earlier, lighting is a very big thing in making a place feel cozy and warm, because light not only symbolizes quote unquote warmth, but it actually makes you feel warmth if you're hit with direct sunlight. But imagine yourself sitting here with your 5 other friends, cooking yourselves a meal, talking about, yo, what do you guys want to do today? Oh, let's go down, let's get some sugar cane, let's get some food, we need to go run some supplies. And a lot of times it's hard to think about the cozier aspects of maps like this because you're constantly being bombarded with zombies. But if you're able to do this and you're able to go into these maps, turn the director off, and just explore the maps for what they are, a lot of them are much cozier than you might think they are. Coming out here, they have a very beautiful deck, ignoring some of the missing railings and awkward texture meshing. I don't know the right term, but like when they connect right there. This is honestly a very beautiful and bright map. In this room right here, there's more writing on the wall. You can pause the video and read it if you like. And if I enter no clip mode and we view the front of the house, it's being hit with probably the most sunlight I've ever seen in a map. I don't think there's another map that simulates this time of day. Probably it's like 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning. It might be towards the end of the day, but something about the lighting tells me it's early in the day. But that's the first place. Let's move on to the second place. Now for the next unexpectedly cozy place, I take you guys to the first map of The Last Stand, but at the end, and today we're going to be particularly looking at the safe room. In my opinion, this is by far the most coziest safe room, and like I said, I'm not going to just show you guys safe rooms, but I think once you see this one, or many of you know what this one actually looks like, you'll see what I mean. It's pretty cozy. Alright, I had to go to the next part of this area because Bill wouldn't shut the hell up about closing the safe room door, and it was low-key pissing me off. Ignoring that fact, getting back to where we were, there is a nice desk here. There's some lamps, there's some books, there's what seems to be a little radio. I'm not too sure what this is. Trying to get a good look at it. Let me know down below. There's a cabinet here with some drawers. Coming over to a fireplace. Man, fireplaces are always cozy. It reminds me of Christmas time. There's a nice rug here which makes it feel even warmer. You can lay back, sit on this couch, take a look at your nice deer head looking outside your window that has since been boarded up. But then again, fireplaces just make the place feel so much warmer. I mean, literally it is warming you up, but from a design perspective, shedding light on everything. Over here you have this nice, clean, definitely not dirty stove top. There's a bunch of dials, there's some handles. Coming over here, there's this nice little candle that has a really nice look to it. There's a trash can here. There's more cabinets you can open. There's some shelves. You have the lighting reflecting from this candle, contrasting with the lighting from the fireplace. A really well made safe room, and it genuinely feels like a safe room. And what not a lot of people realize is that on this table, they've hooked up seems to be a car battery to a light here. There's a nice hanging light here which seems to be controlled by some sort of switch. Coming to the opposite end of the house, man, this bed looks so comfy. I could see myself snuggling in this bed, taking a nice warm nap, having my bunny next to me, putting my sidearms down for but a moment to just relax. There's a nice little candle here giving off some light, and as you come into the bathroom, honestly a really beautiful bathroom here. They have this nice log cabin aesthetic. I mean, it is obviously a log cabin, but what I seem to be confused about is this. I've never seen a shower like this. Usually it's enclosed by some sort of barrier around. Like, what if this dude's showering and there's a guy taking a shit? Like, the dude taking a shit is just gonna be completely wet. Not to even mention the toilet paper. Not the toilet paper, man. Y'all remember 2020?
Charged with a fray and a dewing court.
But that's pretty much it for this area. I think it is super cozy, and honestly, it's expectedly cozy. So yeah, let's move on to the next place. Now for the next warm and cozy place in Left 4 Dead 2, we are actually 5 feet away from the previous one, but I thought this one was a little bit interesting and it was worthy for showing you guys, so might as well do it anyway. So starting here by these dumpster fires, these are a very reoccurring thing in Left 4 Dead. As you guys know, I start every one of these videos standing right next to it, so I thought I'd leave a little Easter egg in there for you guys. But what we're really interested in today is this outpost thing, this overlooking tower sort of thing. There's more firewood, there seems to be some spindles here. I've seen these sort of like wheel looking things in other places in Left 4 Dead. I don't actually know what they are. I might have to do some extra research on that. Over here there's more candles lighting up this sign that says "We don't go to the lighthouse." There's a flashlight, which I don't think I've ever seen, but is a really nice interesting detail shining off into the distance. Over here there's 2 sleeping bags along with some trash. There's some weaponry, there's some boxes, there's some cinder blocks here. There's some trash next to the sleeping bags. What seems to be some type of cereal. Can't really make out what that looks like. It looks like little pancakes. There's a water jug. There's some cans. You can tell someone has definitely been living here. Someone has made it their home. Coming up the stairs, walking around. There's some plywood here. Extra boards, more cinder blocks. There's some light shining off into the distance on all sides. And as you come in here, this is also a very cozy place. You know, there's a bag here, there's radios here, there's this asset again, there's one of these things. Now these communicating devices have been used very frequently. They've been on almost, I think, all of the end maps to call in the evac. There's what seems to be a sink here. I don't know where it would be getting its water from, but there's a map here, there's another map here, there's some books here, there's a single book there, but there's more books here, there's a toaster, there's a clipboard. You know, ignoring that guy, the place is really cozy, and ignoring that person too. And what I really love about this place up here is that this green AK, this green and black AK that you can find, it's super cool. I mean, I believe it's just the same thing as an actual AK, it's just green and black. But for those of you who don't know, if you come up here and you look inside this chest, yeah, there is an actual AK that you can find. And this Desert Eagle, if I'm not mistaken, is different too. Its wooden handle there is different than the other Desert Eagles, which is that nice chrome finish. Looking at this Mac 10, it looks to be the same. I'm not 100% sure. Maybe the finish on the base of the weapon. But yeah, this green AK right here is pretty cool. It's honestly the reason why I come up here all the time. And if I'm not mistaken, it doesn't spawn every single time, but it is a very high chance of spawning, so make your way up here. But overall, this is a pretty cozy place. I could see myself living here, maybe taking out some of our guests here and putting them in the back alley. But this bed, very nice bed, honestly. Shooting out some of this glass, they have a pretty good view. If you get used to it, this could be a very cozy place to live. Think about it, right? Would you rather live in this outpost up here that has a little bit more strategical advantage, or would you live in the more homey cabin down there? I think it's an interesting debate. I mean, what would you live in? Would you rather live in this place or that place down there? Because at one point, there seemed to be maybe two groups of people living in this area. Or maybe it was one group that decided to just spread out. Who knows? That's the power of environmental storytelling. You can infer without having to be told exactly what's going on. But that's pretty much it for this place. Let's move on to the next place. Now for the next cozy and warm, unexpectedly cozy place. This one way more unexpectedly cozy. This is a bit of a stretch. It might be the biggest stretch in this video, but for those of you who watched my previous video, you know I have a very big thing for water. I've always liked water in video games. For those of you who've played Halo Reach, in the very first mission, there's a river that comes down from the valley, and I used to play in that river as a kid. I used to play Halo 4, and there was that sand map with the rivers coming down, and I used to hop off the big wheelie thing you used to be on and play in those rivers. My point is that water to me makes me feel very warm and cozy. You have to ignore a lot of this area to try and get that feeling. Most of, if not the entire feeling from this place, comes from the sounds you hear when you look up and you gaze at the water just falling down. Exploring this area, I mean, there's blood everywhere. There's graffiti on the wall. There's lights on. There's some steel beams. Of course, there's pipes. I mean, this is a drainage circle. Coming down the ladder, this is where survivors can pick up weapons. Looking up, you get that nice square in the ceiling, dripping water down, filling up the floor down here. But this map in particular, this area, has a very distinct feeling, and I can't really describe it. It mostly has to do with the sound and the water. So at the end of this segment, I'll play you a little bit of what I mean. But I envision being able to sit here, chilling with your homies, just taking it in, just sitting down, looking off into the distance, maybe lighting up a smoke and just having a grandiose time, just chilling here, doing not really anything, kind of just listening to the water. And a very interesting thing too is they actually put a tree card up there. If you come to this area and you drop down from over here, there's a tree card there, which you can't see on any of the other sides, but it's pretty nice. Let me play some of that music, or not really music, but let me play some of that ambience for you guys. Now for the next unexpectedly cozy place, I take you to the first map on Blood Harvest, and it's not this place in particular, but I wanted to show you guys this place as well. Everyone's seen this place. When you spawn into Blood Harvest, this is right where you spawn with the bots. There's some camping stuff here. There's a campfire here with some smoke coming out of it. And if you look into the campfire here, there's some money in there. There's some nice orange colored embers, and honestly, sitting next to this fire makes me feel super comfortable, so I can see why they made it here. I don't actually know how the survivors got to this place in the hilltops. It seems like a pretty interesting place to wind up. But what I really want to show you guys is down later in the map. As you make your way through the map, you come through these trees and you meet this bridge going over this chasm right here. And to me, what makes this area cozy is this shack right here. Normally, people come to this shack, they take some ammunition, they maybe find some weapons or some grenades or maybe some healing items, and they just dip. But to me, this place has electricity electricity. You know, there's a 5-star bathroom here. I mean, look at this. They got this nice pristine, I don't know what it's made of, porcelain maybe, toilet. There seems to be no shower, so that's a bit of a problem. You know, these people are going to be dirty as hell up in here. There's a nice little sink here. There's some healing items like I just mentioned. There's some file cabinets. There's a file cabinet on its side over here. There's a desk. There's some chairs. There's some files on the ground. Ignoring our little friend over here, there's some seats out here. There's some more file cabinets. Honestly, I wonder what this is meant to be. I think it's meant to be a research station or like an outpost or someone who maybe goes out here and collects data, because mainly what is in here is files. So I'd be pretty interested in seeing what you guys have to say down below, what this place is meant to be. But exploring the outer areas, there's a couple cars out here. This one pretty interesting. I mean, if you came across this place like us and you decide to live here, you could probably get away with salvaging these cars and making some of these things run. I mean, we find gas cans all throughout the map, so I don't know why you shouldn't get it to run. But don't you love the America license plates, guys? Yeah, these America license plates are always so beautiful. America. And as you come out here, you can see some people had a party because there's some beers out here. There's a case of them right there. There's some cards on the floor. People had a grandiose time playing with cards. There's a trash can knocked over, and there's actually a little thing we can pick up here. There's some chairs, and I can imagine you just sitting here on this chair, watching your homies drink, playing with some cards, just having a really nice time out in the woods. And all of a sudden, this annoying ass zombie apocalypse comes and takes that all away from you. Well, that's unfortunate, isn't it? Oh shit, you can actually jiggle this guy. But yeah, let's move on to the next place. Now for this cozy, unexpectedly cozy and or warm place, I take you to the first map of Hard Rain. And if you remember from my last video, in my personal opinion, I think Hard Rain is the darkest campaign. But that has to do mostly with the later half of the map where the actual rain comes down and it makes it more of a darker map. But spawning into this map, it's actually pretty bright and it does feel pretty warm. And someone, if I can find the comment, left a comment on the previous video saying that Hard Rain is actually one of the cooler maps because people came together and held off and defended here. As you make your way into this restaurant, Burger Tank, you can see there's some healing items here that the survivors can come and grab. There's a lady sleeping on the floor over here. There's some nice pots here. There's some beautiful grenades. There's some ovens. There's some sinks. If you make your way back here, you can see that there's some telephones here. You can call your family, hopefully, if there's some power in the area. There's some generators here, or a generator here, I should say. It seems like if you run the cord over here, you could possibly get this up and running. I believe you can actually, yep, you can open this porta potty and you can wait in here, take a poo, and take a poo. Make your way out of that beautiful porta potty. There's some items on the ground over here. It looks like some red paint. That's what that is. There's some boxes here, which you can actually move around a little bit. There's some sodas. Imagine you come in before the apocalypse. Oh my god, yo bro, let's meet up. Where do you want to eat? Oh bro, let's go Burger Tank. Bro, I got you. You come inside Burger Tank. Yo, what you want? Yo, give me the yellow fizz, man. Oh sure, I got you. Here's the yellow fizz. Bro, you drink that yellow fizz. Oh my god, it tastes delicious. You come over here. Yo bro, I'm gonna grab a seat. You order us some food. I got you, man. Come over here. You grab a seat. Just like that. You sit down. Yo bro, you know, you're 3 feet tall. Yo bro, can you order me the Burger Tank Deluxe? Oh yeah man, I got you. Your bro comes over here. Yo cashier, can I get the Burger Tank Deluxe, man? The cashier's like, oh yeah, sure man. Oh shoot, I dropped some tomato sauce. Let me clean this up real quick. Cashier takes a break, cleans it up. And honestly, that little reenactment was perfect because it shows you the amount of coziness that Burger Tank can have. And what makes it even cozier is the fact that there's pipe bombs that spawn here. There's some healing items. It can really make you feel like you're fighting for something. There's a bunch of residents sleeping outside. They enjoyed too much of the Burger Tank tomato sauce. Coming up onto the roof, you have some of these propane tanks. You can throw them down here. Yo, I want that burger well done, he says. Boom. Takes these two, puts them in this thing right here. Cook it up. And yeah, this is a pretty small kitchen for what I would assume would be a 5-star restaurant. You can see that they actually have onion rings, 150, chicken nuggets. Oh, they have chili for 1.99. You know, I work at a fast food place, and the amount of people that come into my store saying, "You remember when it was $5 for a mahi plate?" No, I don't remember when it was $5 because I didn't work here when it was $5. And I'm pretty sure it was never $5 because that's really, really tiny. Yeah, let's go to the next place. Now we have made it to the last part of today's video, the last supposedly unexpectedly cozy place in Left 4 Dead 2, and it's actually on the second map of Dead Air, the crane map, and it's after you make your way out of the safe room, you climb up the ladder and you enter what seems to be a hotel. I don't think it's an apartment complex. It might be apartment complex, hotel, doesn't really matter. But as you make your way in here, there's a nice little bathroom, there's porcelain everywhere, extra toilet paper. Man, the people in this apocalypse have no idea what went down in 2020, man. Only if they knew. Making our way in here, there's some more burger tank sauce on the ground. There's a bed. Oh my god, it looks so comfortable. You got a nice AK in one hand, you got a nice spaz in the other hand, and you're cozy sleeping there. There's a sink here, there's a mirror, some coffee. Making our way out here, there's some residents that chose to sleep on the floor. There's some soda drinks, there's some vending machines here. It says cold drinks actually. What seems to be some environmental storytelling. Maybe someone came out here, they dropped some of their items, or maybe they just broke this glass and then put a bunch of this trash on the floor. But there what seems to be a remote here, which is I'm pretty sure is not found in a vending machine. There's some burger tank sauce on the ground. There's a very comfy looking bed. This reminds me a lot of the plantation beds. Reminds me a lot of my grandma's house as well simultaneously. It looks pretty warm. There's a nice little mini fridge here with some TVs. These are some of the similar assets we saw on Blood Harvest. I mean, these are both Left 4 Dead 1 maps, so it makes sense. There's some closet here with some paper towels. I'm surprised this wasn't raided. There's a chainsaw. There's someone who had one too many Burger Tank burgers. There's a nice little picture here. There's some side cabinets. And to me, what makes this feel cozy is I could see, you know, you guys cleaning up some of these sleeper folks, kind of putting them outside, getting your boys, yo, I call this room, and then getting your other boy, yo, I call that room, and yeah, just chilling. I mean, I'm pretty sure these are hotel rooms. I mean, they look actually pretty cool. They look pretty nice. I could see myself getting on this if this wasn't like an apocalypse filth-ridden building. But you know, you win some, you lose some. Coming into this room, you see that pretty much looks the same. There's some furniture knocked over. There's some more sinks. I could see myself, bro, if it was cold, just pulling this blanket bag, just sleeping. Oh my god, man. I woke up early for this video. I could just fall asleep. You know, passing by some of the more sleepers on the ground, you see that there's a nice little room over here. It looks pretty much the same. Has a lot of similar assets. There's a pistol there. There's some items there. This room, man, this dude's got to get to cleaning, man. This is unacceptable. The amount of trash on the floor is crazy. You see in the kitchen over here, there's another one of these mini fridges. There's a little coffee thing. It looks like they were drinking something and they put it in the sink. Why would you put an aluminum can in the sink? If you reuse aluminum cans, you deserve to be in a state penitentiary. There's what seems to be a little food container here. There's a microwave, which actually has its power on. I mean, there's literally a light right there. So there's a very nice bathroom. I don't think I've seen a nicer bathroom. There's a big old block here with a towel that's actually pretty clean. You know, I would expect them to use one of the many dirty towels they have on their floor, but you know, there's some windows that have been boarded up. There's one more of these beds over here. There's a lot of Burger Tank sauce here. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this area. Like I said, it is hard to find like places like this that are very warm and cozy. You know, many people are probably going to disagree with the fact that I think these places are warm and cozy, but let me know down in the comments, you guys have any of your own warm and cozy places? Now for the first dark and disturbing place in Left 4 Dead 2 for today's video, I decided to do the second map on the passing, and a lot of people might just walk through this place, come right out of the safe room, not even give it a second look. I'm pretty sure this map will always be rainy right as you come out of the safe room, correct me if I'm wrong, but I assume that's the case. And when you turn director off and you don't have to worry about any zombies, this particular area feels very downtrodden, and that's where, in my opinion, opinion, the more darker aspect comes from is the fact that it's so downtrodden. Now, you could argue that the entirety of Left 4 Dead is downtrodden, so wouldn't that make the entire game dark? And by that definition, it would. But if we're just using that word to describe this place in particular, that's why I feel it's dark. If we look on the left and right, we can see that there's liquor stores, there's pawn shops, there's ATMs, there's beers, there's Jules freshwater crawfish, and if I'm not mistaken, this is the same place that you see on the intro of the Parish. So it actually connects these two maps. You can see store-wide clearance signs, and at this point I've pretty much just been touring you guys around this area, right? But what I find also disturbing about this place, the fact that when you come into the houses, similarly to the hard rain, you can hear the rain hitting the outside, and it sounds very calming yet spooky. And these are the things you don't really realize when you play through the map normally. There's this park area that you can sit down and enjoy a nice cup of coffee. There's trees here that try to block the rain from you. The different back alleys you can explore. This is just the vibe of the map and the dark tone that I get from this area in particular. After you jump down to the next area and you make it into the underground part of this map, it loses this sort of rainy urban mixture. Walking through the city, the clashing of the colors reminds me of something like Cyberpunk, you know. In Cyberpunk there's many different colors, and that's a different type of game, and it's a more futuristic style. The clashing is what makes it really stand out to me. There's another liquor store, there's more trash, there's tattoos.
I've never done a colored tattoo.
And as you just heard Nick say, he's never done a colored tattoo. There's very specific lines of dialogue for this place that people don't even see. There's assets that are only used inside this specific building, and it's sad, you know. There's a lady sitting here slumped over, hands bloodied. Who knows who she was? Maybe she was the tattoo artist, maybe she was someone wanting to get a tattoo. You can try to open this door, but you won't be able to make your way in there. And I guess Left 4 Dead is a game that's just disturbing by default when you don't have anyone in it. But this place in particular looks so alive. Like, it looks like you would come here on a Saturday night with your friends to chill, but there's no one here. I mean, you know, if you play the game naturally, there's zombies everywhere, but naturally when you come here and you look at the place for what it is and you look at the environmental storytelling, it's pretty eerie. But this was a little on the down low. Let's move to a little bit more dark and disturbing places in Left 4 Dead 2. Now for the next dark and disturbing place in Left 4 Dead 2, I bring you guys to Death Toll on the 3rd/4th chapter of the map, and it's actually the safe room. Now the reason I bring you guys to the safe room is because there is actually a living person in here, and a lot of you know that you don't actually meet that many quote-unquote living people in the world of Left 4 Dead 2. Actually, in fact, you don't physically see any actual real alive person other than the main survivors, that being group 1 and group 2. So when you first come up to the safe house, you can actually hear a man inside going quote-unquote crazy.
I can't believe you've been here. I can't believe you've been here. Better safe than sorry, better safe than sorry, better safe than sorry, better safe than sorry. I can hear you out there!
Well, obviously he's talking about being immune, and it's been an hour already, so he doesn't think he's gonna turn. And as he continues to speak in the first half, he sounds normal-ish, but you can kind of tell that he's giving away a little bit. And when the survivors approach the door, he says that, hey, he hears you, he's gonna ring the bell if you keep knocking, and when you go to interact with the door...
Go away! No one gets in!
What?
I can make you leave. Don't believe me? How about now?
I don't believe this.
and he'll ring the bell and it'll signal a horde. After the horde is done, you can come into the safe room, open it up, and you'll see that whoever was in here actually got turned into a special infected. But there's more than just him turning into a special infected. A lot of people know if you come into the room and you go upstairs, you can see that what he was saying, better safe than sorry, better safe than sorry, better safe than sorry, he was wronged in some type of of way. Now, what way? You can infer from what he says. I'm assuming he let somebody in, or maybe a group of people in, and that's what ended up getting him infected. He might have gotten bitten by one of those people he let in, and that's what started to make his time not so great. Been in here for at least 12 days is what it looks like to me. Now, checking this safe room, you can obviously see he's been living in here. He has a bunch of guns, he has food stocked up, possibly water, he has a bunch of ammunition, he has med kits. There's what seems to be an extra room behind here but isn't accessible in the base game without using no clip. But one of the most disturbing aspects of this place is the fact that he turned into a special infected. But why did he turn into a special? Why didn't he turn into a normal infected? When you open the door, why isn't it just a normal zombie? Why is it one of the special infected? But let's move into the next strange and mysterious place in Left 4 Dead 2. For the next dark and disturbing place, I bring you to the third map on Swamp Fever called Shantytown. I thought it was called Shorty Town this entire time. That is not correct. It's Shantytown. That makes a lot more sense. But in this safe room, before we go out there and before we explore, I want you to take a look at this specific writing on the wall right here that says, "Don't let outsiders in. We only got food and water for us." That kind of sets the tone for what we're about to see. Now, a lot of people in Left 4 Dead, the alive quote-unquote people that you don't see but that you meet, are always very accepting. So it is kind of a stark contrast when you see people or writing on the walls that aren't really accepting, and it makes sense. It's a zombie apocalypse. Not everyone is going to see eye to eye. You're going to have people like that. That kind of sets the stage for what we're about to look at. And it's not in your face, but there are a couple environmental storytelling details that I find pretty interesting, or you could say dark and disturbing. As you come out of the safe room, you see this giant constructed wall that was made to probably keep outsiders but zombies mostly out. You can see that either this was a door or the wall was bashed in by this car. I figure it was most likely an actual door that they would pry open, or else how would cars get in here unless the wall was constructed around the cars? But then why even keep the cars inside if they can't get out? This beer shop, I assume, was turned into a stockpile zone, someplace where they could get their resources and just put it in an area to store it. As we look to our right and left, we can see that there are two shacks that were built most likely to hold people for either sleeping or storage. You can find items in here. There's ladders, there's hay bales, and the other one over here, this one is more filled with trash, junk items, bunch of cardboard on the ground. It looks like people were most likely sleeping in these. As you move your way through the map, you start to see some kind of disturbing things. There's a bunch of blood in this one house. Someone was either sleeping or fell down, and they were visibly dragged from this position to another position. As you make your way out of the house, you find this really interesting sight. Now, I don't really know what this is supposed to mean. It could be something simply as it's garbage where the townfolk gathered together and dumped all their extra bodies. But if it weren't for these cows, I would just think that. However, I've seen these specific cows in Blood Harvest. I'll put a picture on the screen for you guys, but they look exactly the same. And I actually don't know why. Now, I thought I might have seen something in a YouTube video or something about these cows, but I forget. So if you guys remember or you know what I'm talking about, let me know down below in the comment section and I'll heart it if I read it. But I gotta do some more research on these cows because it seems like the virus is affecting them in some way. Unlike the people in the Parish, these seem to be zombies before they were killed. You can see that they're kind of distorted and kind of weird looking. As you make your way out of here, there's more houses you'll come across. There's fire barrels. As you continue to make your way through this level, you'll pass by some of these more houses. You'll walk down this area right here. You'll use some of these pre-made bridges to make your way through the swamp. And you'll find this camp right here with someone who was cut in half and dragged. Now, I don't know how they were cut in half. It looks to me that they were indeed cut in half because this is a pretty straight cut. It doesn't look like it was bitten or anything, but I can't seem to find the second half of this guy. But let's move into the next dark and mysterious place. For the next map, I bring you to Dark Carnival, which is by far a lot of people's most favorite map or campaign in the entire game. But this very first area is a big trope that you see in a lot of zombie movies, titles, games, whatever it is. You see a lot of crashed highways. As the world is going on, it collapses, so it makes sense. People are on the road. Zombie outbreak happens. People get stuck on the road. They abandon their cars. And as Nick just said, these cars go on for miles. So I assume that this highway or something is going towards some important sort of city or maybe big metropolitan area that we don't get to see. But some of these cars indeed still work. This van here, for example, its tail lights are on, and as you come around, its headlights are on as well. You can jump up on top of it, you can look around, you can see that none of these cars are on. It seems to be this single van right here. This set dressing is used very well because they use light to sort of light up the areas that they want the survivors to follow. There's a lot of police cars that you can find up here. There's clothes scattered throughout. There's a bunch of dead bodies. And what I find interesting is the fact that you can find these little encampment areas where there seems to be guitars, shotguns. There's people over here who have been draped with cloth and hid. Maybe loved ones came and saw their family members perish, and maybe they couldn't do a necessary burial, so they decided to do this for respect. Or maybe people didn't know they were infected and thought they were just dead, so covered their bodies. Another interesting thing here is the luggage that you can find, and this luggage asset is very similar to the one you can see in Dead Air. There's more luggage over here, and this entire scene reminds me of a movie called Leave the World Behind. If you guys never watched it, it's about a theory or the idea that the world can be taken down extremely easily. The world as in America in the movie, where America is cut off from communication, no one can talk to each other. So instead of an invading enemy from a foreign entity, the people destroy themselves from within. And the reason I bring up this movie is the fact that they have a scene very similar to this, but they use Tesla vehicles in which the Tesla vehicles are hacked and then smashed on roadways to cut off main access points into cities. This isn't really a dark place, it falls more on the disturbing aspect. It's not something you wouldn't see in a zombie apocalypse movie. It's sort of displayed in a very interesting manner, especially with a lot of these dead bodies just here in the middle of each of the roads. But yeah, let's move on to the next disturbing area. Now for the last dark and disturbing area in Left 4 Dead 2, I bring you to the first map in the later half of it in the Sacrifice. But this is the scripted tank fight where you have to fight off a military derailed train tank. And you might think, oh, I already know what he's going to show. Everyone has always talked about this moment. I mean, as normal players do come across this place naturally, why would it be that interesting? Why is it that dark? Well, there's more than just dead bodies in the train car. As you come up, you can hear the tank growl. You jump down and you prepare to fight. So once you kill the tank, you're actually able to explore the next area by opening this part of the car. But before you do that, you can take a look at inside the train car and you can see that it's a horrible bloody mess. You can see that the tank went to town just brutally massacring everybody in this train car. And there's a few theories to what this is depicting, but the first theory, which is accepted, is that the tank derailed the train or something derailed the train. But a lot of people think that it's the tank that derailed the train. Well, in my opinion, that doesn't really make any sense. I mean, it's possible, but how could he derail this entire system, knock up concrete, explode all this stuff while still being inside the train car? You can see that after he killed these people, their blood started dripping out of the train and started falling down onto the side of this wall. It's a pretty interesting detail that they actually went through the effort of adding. But what I want to show you guys that a lot of people don't show is the scale. This entire place is derailed. This train wasn't going anywhere. How could it go anywhere? This place goes straight into the ocean. If you check back here, all of this is derailed, which could have in fact been from the train that was carrying this thing. But as you look on the side of this train, you can see that it's US numbered. There's endangered live specimens. Now, a lot of people have theories on what exactly went down in this train car, but here is my headcanon on the matter. They captured a bunch of people. From the fact that it says live specimens, I'm guessing they knew these people were infected or about to turn, but maybe they didn't know the degree at which they had the potential to turn into. And unfortunately, someone in here turned into a tank. Maybe they did know this person was gonna become a tank and had to just do it anyways. It's horrible to think about. Humans are capable of doing horrendous things in time of crisis, and I think that zombie apocalypse films and video games depict that very, very well. There's a bunch of bodies, there's flashlights, there's just guts thrown everywhere. It is a possibility that this train was bombed or derailed by people not on the train, but I think it most likely had to do with something the train was carrying, and most obviously the tank. But I don't see how it could do this all while being trapped inside of the train car. That doesn't make any sense to me. Maybe there was crashed trains here, and maybe as the train was coming, it smashed into this area, blowing up all this stuff, which would explain why the train was still stuck here with the tank inside of it and not in the water, but we may never know. Let me know your guys' theories down below in the comments. For the first dark and gritty place, I bring you to the second map on No Mercy. And this one is a bit longer. It's the entire subway station about to a certain point before you hit the generator room. But you start a little bit out of the safe room, and as you come down here, they talk about going to the red line north, which is going to bring them to No Mercy Hospital. But as you come down here, you see there's a lot of dead bodies. But if you don't take the time to actually look at them, there's a whole story about this place just told through dead bodies, and I believe it's super cool. The first dead body we can see is a cop. So it's interesting, this guy has a police baton as an actual asset on his model. You can see that this other body is also a police officer. He has his badge. This one over here you can tell from his tool belt and the fact that he has a gun holster and a handcuff. You can see that again there is another dead police officer surrounded by blood that leads into this area. It seems that he was either standing out here when a horde came in, or maybe he was just killed and then his body was dragged. It seems like this set piece was made before this asset was placed down because it goes right under it, which is kind of strange. You can see that there's another police guy. He's facing down, and you can see that there's a whole ton of bodies amongst them, which are another police officer. So far, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 police officers just in the beginning subway area. But this area tells me that police were either getting together trying to stop people from either infecting each other, or maybe they were trying to stop the hordes, because as you guys know in Left 4 Dead and Left 4 Dead 2, the world goes down while you play. So all of this has happened relatively recently, within the past couple of weeks, when our survivors end up coming through here. There's another police officer here. You can see his body is kind of caught up on these assets here, on these train things. I don't have these here in Hawaii, so I don't know what these are called, honestly. These like things that make sure there's only one people that can pass. There's more dead bodies here. So in this area, there's about 6 cops, okay? So as we come up here, there's even more dead bodies. You can see that this entire place is wrecked. Coming into the train car, you move throughout it. As you make your way outside of the train car, you come over here. You can see that there's much more dead bodies, but one of the most interesting places in this subway system is if you look here and you look behind here, there's this tunnel, and it's really good for gameplay if you need to go around the enemy lines, maybe take out some zombies, shoot them from the back, or maybe you're playing versus and you want to use a tunnel to get around. But think of the context, right? What is this tunnel doing here? In a normal subway station, there would be a wall here, there would be a wall on where that tunnel comes out, and there wouldn't be anything there. So in my opinion, it was either dug out by survivors, or more interestingly, maybe a tank dug it out. And while there is no tank dead body nearby, all this rubble is very indicative of a tank's damage. So that's what leads me to believe that it's the one who dug out that tunnel back there, but we may never know. Let me know what you guys think made that tunnel. On this side of the train tracks, there's a bunch of rubble. There's another train here with a blown out door. There's a lady over here, and you see this a bunch with the towels or ropes or any sort of cloth just laid over them to cover their dead body, whether it's a respect or just trying to hide it sort of thing. There's a bunch of dead bodies here that are really low resolution, like a lot of the Left 4 Dead ones are. And once again, if the cop sort of thing was only in the beginning part, there's another cop here, which makes me think that the people who made this map had a sort of reason for putting a bunch of cops down here. There's way more dead bodies. As you come over here, there's another police officer. I'm gonna be saying that a lot this time, but there are a lot of police officers. Once again, another police officer, and this dead guy in the train is, what do you know, it's another dead police officer. So my thought process is the infection was going down, and they had a lot of police go throughout the subway systems, as this is a big mode of transport for a lot of the public, and sort of control the area. But it is a zombie apocalypse, so as you can see, things didn't go very well. And in the final area of this place, you can see there are just mounds of bodies in this room. Right before you open that door and head up to the generator area, if you take a moment to look around, a lot of these bodies are reused, these specific assets, but just looking at their faces and the flies going around their bodies and the limbs missing, blood splattered dripping down the side, arms everywhere, legs everywhere, people holding on to each other, there's blood on the walls, people just piled up. It's really sad. And unfortunately, if you were to equate this to real life, you know, these are people who had families. These aren't people who were just nothing. These aren't just NPCs. Now in a video game, they're NPCs, but if you put yourself in this universe, it's quite sad. But let's move on to the next dark and gritty place inside Left 4 Dead 2. Now for the second dark and gritty place in Left 4 Dead 2, I bring you to the fourth map on Death Toll, and I have actually looked at this area before for those of you who are fans of the channel. If you remember in one of my most popular videos, I think it's the most popular video at this point on my channel, but I go through this area in the previous map, but it's out of bounds and it's kind of all jibber jabbered all over the place. But if you come over here when you're supposed to and you view this area, it's actually pretty dark. You see that there's a bunch of market stuff on the ground. There's a bunch of bottles, chips, cereal, and as you look up you can see that there is a supermarket here. Maybe not a supermarket, more like a gas station it looks like, or maybe like a stop by store where you can stop and just get some food. As you come in this back room, these are one of the many rooms in Left 4 Dead which they designed to be loot specific, so you don't have to come back here, but a loot will spawn here in a normal game, so it kind of encourages you to go off the beaten path. There's another segment to the loot room over here, and yeah, as you can see, loot does spawn in here. There's a bunch of trash out here. As you come into the store, you can see it wasn't so pretty. I can't tell if each of these things are eaten. I mean, there's one right there that seems to be split open, and there's more that aren't. So whoever came in here and scavenged this place didn't really do a good job, because half the food here isn't even open. Like, you could probably get out of here with like 5 to 6 days worth of food. You can open this room, you can see that there's trash all over the floor. This is indeed a bathroom. There's soda machines here, cups, paper towels. But one of the saddest aspects is if you come to this back room, you can see there's a place for them to watch the CCTV cameras set up around the building. But there's a girl here, and this specific girl is placed around all the map. It seemed like she potentially took her own life, or maybe she did survive until the very end. There is a gun laying beside her, so it's up to your interpretation. There's more vending machines here, which of course are broken and destroyed. Look at that, $1 pricing. That's crazy. Give me them $1 drinks back, bro. Go to my college and they're freaking like $5, bro. And this place is just gritty. Like, I know it's in the title, just coming around here with no zombies, no survivors, nothing, and it's just you. This place is just so unsettling. A really interesting addition to this map are these sandbags, which tells me that the military has been through here, and the military goes all throughout Left 4 Dead. As you can see over here, there are multiple Humvees. There are 2 Humvees over here, and there's a Humvee all the way down on that end of the street as well. So it makes sense why there are sandbags here, but why in this particular area? Do you think the military were set up here trying to defend the main road, maybe as people were coming through? Honestly, who knows? It could be anything. And one of the more interesting cars in this map, specifically in Death Toll, are these news cars, which I believe you only see in Death Toll. I might be wrong, but they have a nice little satellite dish. There's another one right there. You can see the news, you know, eyewitness. So it seems as it was going down, as the zombie apocalypse was coming in, the news was reporting on it, trying to inform people. And while a lot of places have power in Left 4 Dead, maybe not everyone actually understood what was going on. But let's move on to the next place. So for the third dark and gritty place, I bring you to the passing on the very final map, Port. Now a lot of you might already know what I'm about to show you, but in my opinion, as this is one of the most dark and gritty aspects of the game entirely, I think if you haven't seen this, you need to see it. And once you make your way down the elevator, after you come down here and look to the right, you come into this generator room and you can see Bill's dead body. And for my friend, Bill is his favorite character, so this was a heartbreaking moment. But other than that, you know, it might be the fact that he was a Left 4 Dead 1 survivor. This is obviously very sad. There are only 3 survivors up there, and he is canonically dead. So for the people who haven't seen this, I'm sorry. Won't you believe that there are a lot of people who don't actually know you can find his body? But out of honor for Bill, we're gonna pick up his gun, his M16, and we're gonna carry it for the rest of this video. But to me, what makes it super gritty is the fact that it has so much history. You know, you actually get to play through the first version of this map as the Left 4 Dead 1 survivors, so you get to experience that previous battle. I recommend you guys play the sacrifice and then play the passing. As you come through this part of the map, you can honestly really feel the story, but it adds so much more weight. It adds this feeling like you aren't the first person here that have failed. There's a lot of interesting specific looking cars that you can find. There's a red truck here, there's a bus here. Once again, there's many more piles of bodies everywhere. It's not Left 4 Dead if you don't have bodies everywhere. There's another truck over here, which I believe this is the same exact truck that's used in the beginning of the sacrifice and in the out of the map area in Death Toll, so that's pretty cool. Coming over here, you can see that there's just a bunch of trash everywhere, more loot. But like I said, it's that feeling of a previous battle, a previous loss that really gives weight. And when you look at the survivor sheet, they don't directly tell you, hey guys, you know, these new people we just met, we lost a friend. Oh, they have that dead guy down there, don't worry about him, but he was just one of our friends. You don't get told that. A lot of people don't know that you can actually no clip up here and you can actually walk around. It's pretty cool. If you walk over here, you can see that these are actual items you can pick up. So like if I shoot my gun like that for a second, I reload, I can actually pick up this ammo, and this entire area is mapped for these survivors to run around on. And you can run up here, you can explore this area. There's not much up here. Jump over here and drop down, I guess, but yeah, there's not real any reason to be over here specifically. If you come down here and you go down instead of up, you can actually cross this board, jump down, and you can see this is actually where the Left 4 Dead 1 survivors hang out. This is where they come and they help you. Let's go to the next area. So for the next dark and gritty place, I bring you to, funnily enough, one of the brightest maps, but also one of the most hated maps, which I find pretty funny. It's the first map on Coldstream, and analyzing the environmental storytelling, you see that the survivors from Left 4 Dead 2 were running away from a forest fire, maybe possibly using this boat, which, you know, I think it's pretty obvious that they were using this boat. Kind of glitches you out if you try to walk on it, but it seems like they crashed on this boat, some of their stuff fell over, and they picked it up and they started this playthrough. As a kid, I loved just playing around with water. The Source engine doesn't have very good water physics. I mean, there are like a little bit, but that's mostly hitting the terrain right there. Like, this isn't necessarily crazy looking water. I mean, it's cool, it definitely works, but for me, someone who likes playing in water and like Halo and stuff and just messing around with the ragdolls and stuff, it's not overly interesting. But the more darker and gritty aspect comes from the random little things you can find, like this dead guy here that's just cut in half on the ground. He's bleeding out, half of him is just nowhere to be found. And forest maps really give me the creeps, especially if you come here alone with nobody talking to you. Like if I came here and I wasn't talking to you guys, like when I did it earlier to explore areas for this video, it's pretty creepy. Exploring this area, there's not much to show in detail. I mean, like I said, this is just a forest area. You're meant to experience this vibe by playing, not necessarily have someone tell you. And as you walk forward, you come to this bridge, and I have God mode on, but don't try this in the actual game. You can jump off here, you can jump down, you can explore this area a little bit more. You can see that there are a bunch of just water streams everywhere. I mean, hey, it's in the name, Coldstream. I think you would find water here. You can see that this bridge was actually either cut or broken because it's supposed to reach from here all the way up there, but instead you jump down here and walk up here. Over here you can see that there's a bunch more water, and you know me, I love playing with water. You kind of come down here, and like I said earlier, Source doesn't really do very well with water. Like I'm punching it and nothing's happening. I mean, there's a little ripple effect when you shoot it and water comes out, but that's pretty much it. Once you take care of all the zombies in this area and come down to the safe room, most people aren't going to want to stick around. They just bolt right in here, close the door. But if you turn to your left, you can see that there's a bunch of writing, but there's actually a little Easter egg here. It says Chet was here, and presumably this dude is Chet. Unfortunately, Chet didn't make it. He's got some nice kicks on though. Those are some good kicks, Chet. I might have to steal them off you. And let's go on to the final area in this video. So for the final area in this video, I bring you to the third map on Coldstream. Now again, Coldstream is a pretty bright map. The overlooming fear of the fire. When you get to the rescue map in the final area, the entire place is set ablaze, so it's kind of reminded. But a lot of people forget that the entire map in Coldstream is set on fire. And before we get to the area, this is one of the funniest places, or one of the funniest safe rooms, I should say. Reading this wall, this dude says, "We are the real monsters." And it's kind of funny because there's a bunch of people that just start making fun of him. No, that's the zombies, moron. Idiot. I think it's them, stupid. I hope you're dead now. Damn, people are harsh in this universe, man. I wouldn't write anything on these walls other than like say something to my loved ones, but the real Chad down here. I miss the internet. Bro, I couldn't imagine a world without the internet, man. How would we survive without Fortnite Battle Royale? As you come up these stairs, you can make your way out of here and jump up here. And as a kid, I love just exploring off the beaten path. I love when games let you do it, especially early Halos, like Halo 1 Combat Evolves. That kind of exploration is pretty cool. If you come out here, you can actually jump down here without dying. It actually has a place for you to stand. Now you can't jump, but you can walk around. And what makes this place gritty is the fact that there's just all these boats clumped up. Now I don't necessarily know why there are a bunch of boats here. Maybe people were trying to make an escape for some sort of evac and just crash their boat on purpose. But it's pretty interesting coming around and just taking a look at each of these boats. You can crouch down and you can see that there are water effects. There's that underground or underwater sort of fog that you can get. And this entire place is explorable, although you will dip down at certain points like this and go under the water. But you can take a look at these boats. There's a bunch of rocks here that I believe you can just phase through. And I always find crash ships very disturbing. You could even say dark. But looking around, there's many dinghies here, which makes me think that these people crashed their boats, hopped out, used these dinghies to get to shore, and maybe make it to an evac or something. There's laser sights and many different types of weapons you can find around the area. Once again, there's much more boats. There's this other huge boat just sitting over here. There's another boat just cruising out here, also just halfway in the water. There's another really big boat. Now it seems to me that there's only two different assets for boats that they use in this area. There's this red one that you can also see over here. There's this one over here, and then these two are, I believe, the same asset. It looks to me like they're the same asset. But to me, this area in particular that I'm looking at, you're not meant to go in. It's meant as a set piece that you can actually see if you come up here, maybe look off the edge in some areas. But being able to explore it gives it a story, right? The fact that people place this down here inherently means something. It means something more than just there's a boat here. There's a boat that crashed. It means more than just that. Maybe it would just mean that in a add-on campaign, but the fact that this is now a main story game is pretty interesting. Now, I don't know if Coldstream is canonical, like it actually takes place and not just a side mission. Sorry, not the sacrifice. The Last Stand is a quote-unquote like side mission that they do. It's like an alternate reality sort of thing, but let me know what you guys think. And if you come over here, like I said earlier, the fire is still prominent, so you're meant to have this overlooming feeling like you have to go, the fire's creeping up on you. And to me, that's what makes Coldstream a pretty dark map. You know, like I said, a lot of people might disagree, but that's gonna be it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Once again, if we hit 1,500 likes, I'll post 3 photos of my bunny. That's a low price for 3 beautiful bunny photos. But as I said, make sure to like, make sure to comment down below more video types that you guys want to see, because I love exploring Left 4 Dead. If there's any other videos you want me to check out, I might check out add-on campaigns. That's something I might do. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I'm Cookie Blitz, and have a nice rest of your day. Peace.